All right. It's about 1 week before Christmas. Yes, guys, 1 week before Christmas, and all I gotta say is, we're still in the off season. It's only about, I don't know, maybe about, I'd say like a month since the season was over. But on the flip side, once we get after the holidays, we're gonna be about 1 month until Daytona. But tonight we are going to discuss Hailie Deegan's new deal for 2020, manufacturer wise and team wise and so forth. And then we are also going to be grading race teams from this year. Who's your favorite race team that we are going to grade? We're going to find out. His name is Chris. My name is Corey, and this is the CJ Speedway Review. And welcome back, folks, to the CJ Speedway Review. My name is Corey Huffnagel, and tonight we are going to talk about Hailie Deegan's new deal for 2020, and then of course we are also going to be grading race teams this year. So which of your favorite race teams is going to be graded tonight? You'll have to find out. And all I can just say is we'll go to the hotline. And Chris, have you done your Christmas shopping yet, or did you get done already?
Almost done. There's a couple things I have to grab, and after that, it is smooth sailing America.
Well, I already see you're wearing my Christmas gift I sent you.
Well, I think it's what you might call the pick championship winner here, the MRN gimmick. But if you want to call it Christmas, thank you, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah Jones, whatever. Whatever you guys decide to celebrate, make sure you have a great, safe, and happy holiday. Real quick, I'll give you guys a production note. We will not be on for 3 weeks. We come back on January the 8th, celebrating Elvis's birthday in style with the C&J Speedway Review. Why, you may ask? Because next Wednesday is Christmas, and the following Wednesday is New Year's Day. No one wants to record on Christmas. And I'm sure that some of you, like Corey, who have a college football game on the 1st, would rather be watching that than talking about race cars that still haven't hit the track yet. So all our podcasts are taking 2 weeks off. We will return that very first full week of January with all of your audio entertainment needs. Having said that, how about the Busch Clash, Corey? That's the biggest news of the day, in my opinion. I am excited. It's like going back in time. I feel like I'm a kid again.
Well, this is actually the first time since 1997 that it was actually named the Busch Clash. And it was funny because when they started this whole exhibition race in 1979, which was won by none other than, I'd say, Buddy Baker himself, it was actually named the Busch Clash. And then after the Busch Clash, you had the Budweiser Shootout for a little while, which I thought it was okay. And then, of course, you had the Sprint Unlimited, which I thought, okay, it is an exhibition race, but the name was kind of, okay and so forth. But then, of course, you had the Advanced Auto Parts Clash, and it was just like, okay, why do we have to have another sponsor come in and sponsor this race, whatever it is? I mean, I do understand it's an exhibition race, and I understand, like, it's the race before the Daytona 500, so some of the guys are trying to get their feet wet as well. But I am happy that, they're bringing back the Busch Clash. It's kind of like a throwback, of what it was back in, like, 1979 to, like, all the way in 97. So it's going to be very fun. And I'm really interested to see what the lineup is going to be for the Busch Clash in February. So I can tell you there's going to be some really good drivers that are going to be in that field. And it's funny because when we saw the Clash race in February, it was won by none other than Jimmie Johnson.
Correct. I'm just looking forward to it mostly because it goes back to my childhood. Whether it was the Busch Clash or the Bud Shootout, it was always it had that name value. It had recognition. And like you said, to go through the name changes over and over and over again, it's kind of like reading off some of those Truck Series races we talked about this year. The Gander Outdoor, Kotex mini pads, Under Armour underwear, Gimmick Sock 300, sponsored by Sprite Zero. Enough is enough. Give it a name and go. There was years and years and years where you knew you go to Talladega, you're running the Alabama 500, or you go to Daytona, it's the Coke 400 or the Pepsi Firecracker. You knew, and now everything's rebranded every 3 to 4 years. It's driving me nuts, especially the title sponsorship. So It's nice to have the Busch Clash back. It's nice to have that tip of the hat to old school NASCAR. And like you said, it's going to be interesting to see how they run it coming up in 2020 in just, oh, wow, maybe 6 short weeks from now.
Yeah. And I definitely would love to see how they, like, how it used to be back in like 97, whatever, like starting wise, how they like draw like positions and whatever. So I think they should probably do that, which I'd be interested to see.
If I'm not mistaken, they used to have the drivers draw their starting spots. Yeah. I remember when it became the Budweiser shootout, they'd line up all the eligible drivers and they'd give them empty beer bottles. Empty, except for a slip of paper inside. They pop the top, they reach in, they unfold their number, and now the world sees that Rusty Wallace is going to start third in the Budweiser shootout, and the Busch Clash was something similar. I think they had the old bingo wheel back then, but it made for a whole lot of fun. They made a whole entire 60-minute show out of it on Speed Network, ESPN, you name it. They had the drawing for the Busch Clash / Budweiser shootout. It made for a really exciting. It made it more exciting, as if the first time the cars rumble off the strip, as if that wasn't exciting enough.
Right.
I'm just thrilled. I can't get over it. I'm hoping and praying that NASCAR Superstore comes out with a Busch Clash T-shirt with the date on it. Yeah, I didn't go. So what? I usually have a rule: if I didn't go, I don't get the shirt. But to have the Busch Clash back, that's good enough for me to reach into my pocket and tell NASCAR, take my money.
Right.
So we might as well dive in. Hailie Deegan, wow, what can you tell us about that?
All right, so it was announced on Tuesday that Hailie Deegan is going to be moving over to Ford, and she is going to be running a full ARCA Menard Series schedule next season, driving for the number 4 team on the DGR Crosley racing team. Not only that, she will also be driving in the Rolex Sports Car Series and the IMSA Series, and I think she's also going to be running the 24 Hours of Daytona as well. So basically, this is what the plan's going to be. So next year, she's going to run a full ARCA schedule. I mean, I know that she did say that she wants to run the truck race at Eldora because she loves running on the dirt. And I will say this, though, even though DGR Crosley is switching manufacturers to Ford, I could probably see her maybe run one or two truck races next season, if the team decides, to give her a shot in the trucks. I mean, I think it'd be awesome, if she could run at Eldora. I think it would be pretty cool. And, of course, she did win that dirt race at Las Vegas back this year, too, in the K&N West Series this year. So, and it's kind of funny because I had a good friend of mine. Well, I have a good friend. His name's Josh. And he's a huge racing fan. And me and him, we were talking about Hailie Deegan and stuff. And I guess he said something which really, I think he said it like spot on. He said, they shouldn't rush Hailie Deegan up pretty quickly. Just give her like a full ARCA Menard Series schedule. And then next year, give her like an ARCA Menard schedule and then run a couple truck races. And then when she's ready to go to the trucks and like, I don't know, let's say you're looking at maybe 2023, give her a shot at that. And then, just basically have her work her way up. And then chances are, she'll probably be in the Cup Series by 2026, 27 or something like that and so forth. But I really think, now I'm not saying that, she's going to be the next Danica Patrick. I think, with Hailie Deegan, and I mean, she's also the daughter of famous motocross legend Brian Deegan. I mean, I think, she's going to surprise almost everybody this year. She's going to have a lot of women fans, come in, with the with all the advertisement and the T-shirts and the hats and whatnot. But something tells me, I think Deegan's going to surprise a lot of people this year. And hopefully, now I'm just hoping, that Crosley can get her a full-time truck deal in like 2021 or 22 or something like that. But this is, but I honestly, when she won that race, I think in like Colorado or Idaho or something, I was like, I kind of knew who she was, but then I thought, all right, I want you to show me more. But then there was that one race where I think they were in like Colorado or something, and she took out her own teammate. I was like, this girl is really not a force to be reckoned with. But, and yet again, I'm not saying she's the next Dale Earnhardt. I'm saying, you get in this girl's way, chances are you might get taken out. But I'm excited for her opportunity next year, and I'm really hoping, she has a full successful ARCA schedule next season.
Well, and I have to agree with your friend Josh on this one. You certainly, don't want to rush her up through the ranks too quickly. I mean, we've seen more than once what happens when you take a driver who's got unlimited potential and you push them too quickly. Then again, you can take someone who has zero potential, like, I don't know, Danica Patrick, and they're just a bust for 6 years. If they treat this with kid gloves and they give her the seasoning she needs, let her run 2 years on the ARCA series, give her a year or two on the trucks. Like you said, 2026 would be a good time for her to come up. This is a girl that's under 20 years old, and she's already lighting the world on fire. If you rush it, you lose it. So absolutely, I agree with that. Give her the time to develop, to mature,
right.
and most of all, get those drivers respect out on that track. Because if you go out there and you just pull a Danica, you're not gonna find any friends. So here we go. Let's see what happens when we move forward with Hailie Deegan. And I think that the Crosley deal with Ford is fantastic, and the way they brought her out and showcased her, here she is. This is our go-to. This is the one we're counting on. We're putting our full support behind her. Smart move on their part.
And of course, the funny fact of the matter is, is that, let's face it, Ford only won one race in the Truck Series this season, which that was Johnny Sauter that came at, of course, Dover. But then not to mention, I understand that, they won the championship this year with Matt Crafton, which, of course, he didn't win a race all season. But yeah, this is kind of, this is kind of an interesting scenario, now that Deegan's with Ford. So let's say, she goes to Ford. Well, if she continues to race at Ford, she could be racing in the trucks for Thorosport, which, they've won championships in the trucks with Matt Crafton. And then, of course, she could also move up to Crosley's truck team as well. And then, of course, let's say she moves up to Xfinity. What would happen if Roger Penske starts calling? And when you say Roger Penske, for a guy that has been so successful in like almost everything motorsports, that has helped all of his drivers, win races and championships. I think that would be phenomenal as well. And then, of course, you go to the Cup Series. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, there's also Stewart-Haas racing as well. So, she could either go to Stewart-Haas or Penske and Xfinity. But then, of course, you go to the Cup Series. And, of course, you got Roush Fenway, you got Stewart-Haas, you got Penske. I mean, think about it. She could land, on a really good team, that's capable of winning races in a championship.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Agree with all of it. I'm just really curious to see. I think Crosley's going to take care of her as she moves forward. Will other teams give her that same room to breathe and room to grow? Again, I hate to point it out, but we've seen it before, and I'd really hate to see it with this young lady because she has potential coming out the wazoo.
Oh, she does.
All right. So, going to be a short one tonight, guys, because, well, it is the holiday season, and I don't know how it is up there, Corey, but it's going to be like 4 degrees in a little while here in Connecticut. I want to get my happy butt upstairs and get warm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cold one down here on the shore right now.
Oh, it definitely is. And I guess tomorrow, the wind chill is probably going to be like, I'd say 6 below, 7 below zero. So yeah, you guys might want to get comfortable up there.
Oh yeah. But who shouldn't be comfortable? The race fans and the race teams, because Corey and I are going to grade some of the. I picked 8. I don't know which 8 Corey's going to pick, but I've got my grades ready. I've got little notes. I'm sure Corey will have drop-ins on mine. I'll have drop-ins on his. But Professor, if you want to lead the charge, why don't you pick a team and give them a grade and tell me why?
All right. So my first grade I'm going to point out is I'm going to go to Joe Gibbs Racing. So this year, with Denny Hamlin starting off winning the Daytona 500, he won, I would say, I'm going to pull up the standings just to make it easier. So let's see. You had Denny Hamlin, who won 6 races this year. You had Kyle Busch, who not only won 5 races this year, ends up winning the championship, along with Martin Truex Jr., who won 7 races, finishing second. And then, of course, you had Eric Jones, who finished, okay, I can't see for a little bit. Anyway, so Eric Jones, who wins the Southern 500 at Darlington, ends up finishing in 16th. So I'm going to grade I'm gonna grade Joe Gibbs Racing an A plus. Now, the reason why I say this is because Gibbs pulled off winning the championship at the right time. Of course, Kyle Busch, was dominant during the season. Once I probably say maybe like 4 races at like during the regular season and whatnot. Then you got Martin Truex Jr. Of course, he's coming from Furniture Row Racing, and everybody thought, okay, he's probably going to pick up where he left off. Sure enough, he wins 7 races this year. Of course, he wins the big race at Martinsville to clinch him in the race at Homestead. Then you have Denny Hamlin, which of course I would say 2010 and this year was probably the best seasons that he's ever had, even though he hasn't won the championship. But I would say this year was also a good year for him. He won the Daytona 500 to start off the season. And of course, I do expect him to be the same as what he was this year into 2020. Then you also have Erik Jones, which he was kind of the bottom in the totem pole for the Gibbs team. And everybody thought, all right, when's he going to win a race? Because he was kind of running consistently all year. And then there was times where he's just like, he hasn't been running as good. Why did Gibbs end up having him as a driver? But then, of course, he wins the Southern 500 in Darlington, gets him into the playoffs. Unfortunately, it doesn't make him go too far. Well, it doesn't let him go too far. But I would grade Gibbs an A plus. They won the championship this year. All their drivers, they've won a combined total. Let's see, 5 plus 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and
19.
19 wins total. And then not to mention, their Gibbs team this year, also won a couple races, of course, with Christopher Bell, who was really successful this year at Xfinity. So let's face it, Gibbs was just the one to beat this year.
I got to tell you, I gave him an A plus too. When you have 3 drivers in the championship 4, not to mention the 2019 champion overall, Kyle Busch, the regular season champion, Kyle Busch, the 19 wins, all of it. We talked about it at the end of the championship race and in the weeks that followed. Right now, Joe Gibbs Racing is what Rick Hendrick Racing was. They are the light. They are the beacon. They are the ones that everybody should be fighting to become. They've got their stuff together. They've built a fantastic team. And when I say team, yes, they may not like each other, but when you put them on the track and they're all running, the teams work well together, whether it's the pit crews, the shops are sharing information. Joe Gibbs is running this like his championship football teams back in the day. Yeah. And if people know if anybody knows championships, it's Joe Gibbs. I have to agree with you. A plus for JGR.
I agree too.
All right, I have Hendrick up next, and not the greatest season in the world for Hendrick Motorsports. I mean, they did field 3 playoff drivers. They had 4 wins overall. But again, you're talking about, as we just talked about JGR, Rick Hendrick and Hendrick Motorsports was for many, many years, 20 plus years, the standard of which you set yourself to be. Never thought they'd be surpassed. Unfortunately, they have been, but they're in a rebuilding mode. To put 3 drivers into the playoffs, fantastic. The 4 wins, 3 of them by Chase Elliott, there's your star right there. And let's face it, it's the last year coming up in 2020 for Jimmie Johnson in that 48 car. He's retiring officially after 2020. You have an opportunity, like we talked about 2 weeks ago, to either put, I don't want to say mid-level, let's say in the middle of their career. You don't want to take a guy who's going to be gone in 3 years, nor do I think Hendrick wants to take the risk of putting a young guy, 21, 22 years old in that car and watching it be a bucket of suck week after week.
Right.
Right now, I give Hendrick only because the rebuilding has started. We're seeing the uptick in Hendrick Motorsports. I gave them a strong B minus. I moved it up from a C plus when I factored in the fact that Chase Elliott has been so good for the last 2 years. The fact that Jimmie Johnson is still a part of that race team, holding on to those 7 record tying 7 championships. Thank you. My tongue just came through customs. You're rebuilding, but you also still have pieces of the puzzle that tell you, this team was and can be again a mega force on the NASCAR Cup Series.
Right. So I probably say for me, I would have to give him a C because I give him a C because, of course, Chase Elliott, who won 3 races, Alex Bowman, who won that race at Chicago. They had a good year. Chase Elliott, he has been pretty good. Alex Bowman, I'd probably say, had a consistent year during the regular season. But then you look at Jimmie Johnson, second year he hasn't won a race. I would probably say it was the worst season that he's ever had. And then of course William Byron was in his second year as well. There was some good races that he had. He had a few runner-up place finishes. He ran good, and of course he was working with veteran crew chief Chad Knaus. And then, of course, you go to the playoffs, they were good until, I would say, right until the round of 8. And then I know Bowman fell out early. So, Hendrick, I would give him a C because, they had a consistent year. They won 4 races. But, I was disappointed the fact that, Jimmie Johnson wasn't able to perform what everyone expected him to. And, of course, first time in his career he's ever missed the playoffs. So we'll just have to see how they do in 2020. I do expect Chase Elliott to be the same as what he was this year. I do expect Alex Bowman to run pretty good too. And hopefully, I expect William Byron to win 3 races. Well, to win a couple races next year.
Absolutely. And again, it's the year that I'm sure we all knew was going to come with Jimmie Johnson saying goodbye to the NASCAR Cup Series. Do you think that he could collect a win on his way out?
I hope so. I really do. There was, let's be honest, the Clash race, he was pretty lucky to win because, of course, it's no points whatsoever. I know Chicago, he ran pretty good this year. I know there was a couple racetracks, where I thought he was consistent, but, I will say this, I think he's probably going to get maybe 1 or 2 wins, before he closes out his career.
And I'm gonna go out on a limb a little further. It's going to happen at a D track: Dover, Daytona, or Darlington.
I'm going to say Daytona.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to stick with all 3 of those. He runs well at each of those tracks. He's master behind the wheel at those places, and those are the 3 places that's going to give him the best shot at winning in 2020.
Of course.
All right, so we're gonna move down the list now. I have Stewart-Haas Racing in 3rd. Corey, why don't you lead this one off?
Okay, so Stewart-Haas Racing. Let's see. You had Kevin Harvick, who won 4 races this season. You had Clint Bowyer, of course. Didn't win a race, but had 7 top 5s and 18 top 10s. Then you also have Eric Almirola. Didn't win a race, had 3 top 5s and 12 top 10s. And then the other guy, what was it?
Daniel Suarez.
Yep, Daniel Suarez. Didn't win a race, but then also had 4 top 5s and 11 top 10 finishes. So for Stewart-Haas Racing, so at the start of the season, they didn't win a race from February all the way to July, which was in New Hampshire. So at the start of the season, everybody was questioning, okay, what's wrong with Stewart-Haas? Because last year they won 8 races with Kevin Harvick. And then, of course, they won a race with Clint Bowyer as well. And then, of course, last year they won with Eric Almirola. So everybody thought that, they were going to pick up from where they left off in 2018. And then this year, of course, you had the big wreck at Daytona. But, of course, everybody was wondering, all right, which Stewart-Haas driver was going to win first? And, of course, it was Kevin Harvick who won at New Hampshire. And then backs it up with a win at Michigan. And then, of course, he wins at Indianapolis to go to the playoffs, and then wins one of the playoff races at Texas to get him in the Homestead. So I'm going to say for Stewart-Haas Racing, I'm going to give him maybe a B- on this one. Now, they had a good year. They won 4 races with Harvick, but the 3 drivers, I really wanted them to win a race. Bowyer, I was expecting him to win. Almirola, I thought he was going to be pretty good too. And then, of course, Suarez, which, of course, this was his first year with Stewart-Haas Racing. He was consistent. A shame that, he got taken out of that ride because Cole Custer now is coming in. So for Stewart-Haas Racing, I'm going to give him a B-. Good year, but I do expect him to run better in 2020.
Okay, well, we're in the same grade category. I gave them a B+. Going back to those 4 wins, Harvick making the championship 4, they put 3 drivers into the playoffs, 3 out of their 4. The only downside I saw when Bowyer won last year, I don't think it was dominance. I think it was luck. Almirola, right place, right time, but still ran his heart out and stayed at the front for a lot of those races last year. But last year. We're talking about 2019. Those two drivers did exactly what I thought they would do. They were consistent, but they weren't edgy enough. They didn't have that oomph to get to victory lane like Kevin Harvick. Now, speaking of Kevin Harvick, when you talk about 8 wins last year and a championship 4 spot to 4 wins this year and a championship 4 spot, it is a drop off. If this were any other year, any other team, this is an A team. But when you look at it objectively, I got to look at the lack of wins, a lot of top 5s, a lot of top 10s, and the fact that Suarez was just kind of there. So I give them a B+, but I also think as much as I dislike the move, one could be a spark that's needed to motivate guys like Almirola and Bowyer. You got to get your butts to the front, guys. You got to start winning races because this kid, he wants it probably worse than you do. Yeah. And, of course, the competitive drive of Kevin Harvick is second to none. He wants to go out there and kick your fanny every single weekend and always in the mix. So not necessarily a rebuilding year, but not the year Stewart-Haas Racing wanted. I'm going with B+.
All right.
All right, so next on the list, I have Team Penske. Wow, 6 wins, 3 drivers in the playoffs. Unfortunately, none of them made the championship 4, but all 3 of their drivers recorded wins this year. And let's be honest, they're ridiculously consistent when it comes to winning. They have Joey Logano come home with the championship in 2018, missed out on his opportunity to defend his championship as we came closer and closer to Homestead Miami Speedway. Not a bad year for Penske Racing. Last year, an easy A. This year, I'm giving them a solid B. There is room for improvement. Obviously, Ryan Blaney, being as young as he is the uptick. You have 2 past champions in Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski that continue to win. And that late summer, early fall that Brad Keselowski had right before the string of bad luck, one would have thought that Brad Keselowski was a shoo-in to win the championship this year.
Yeah, I'd probably say for me, I'm gonna give him an A-. Again, they have a good team. They have 2 drivers that have won the championship. Of course, Keselowski, he was strong in the beginning, and then of course late summer, early fall, they started to fall off just a little bit. Of course, Joey Logano, he gets 2 wins this season. He misses his shot to go the championship race at Homestead, I think by like 5 points, 7 points, or whatever it is. And of course, Ryan Blaney, which he's been consistent, in the regular season, but somehow in the playoffs, he'll sneak into the next round by winning a race. I mean, we saw that last year at the Charlotte Roval, which, of course, Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr. get taken out. And then the race in October at Talladega, when everybody was all crashing, everybody was all crashing. I think I'd say like probably 20 plus cars got taken out. At the end of the day, Blaney was there right at the end, edges out Ryan Newman for the win. Again, Penske, they have a good team. Their Xfinity team, I thought was good too. Austin Cindric, ends up winning, I think 2 or 3 races this season. So, and again, you have Roger Penske, who's been successful almost everything motorsports. The fact that he now owns the IndyCar series and then of course the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So A- is what I'm going to give him. And then also not to mention as well, they also got a good IndyCar team as well. And of course with Joseph Newgarden, who ended up winning the championship this year.
Okay. I like it. Now we move on. I think I'm going to let you lead this one. Wait, yeah, it would be your turn, wouldn't it? I led with Penske.
Yes.
So 3 letters that used to mean a whole lot to the racing world, and now it just kind of seems as historic as this team is, it's almost becoming field filler, and I hate to say it because they are one of my favorite teams of all time, Richard Childress Racing.
Okay, so you have Austin. I almost said Austin Cindric. Hello. All right. Anyways, So you have Austin Dillon, who only scored 6 top 10 finishes this season. And then, of course, Daniel Hemrick, who had 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s. Unfortunately, he will not be in the 8 card next year, as is now Tyler Reddick is going to be replacing him next year. But however, speaking of Tyler Reddick, I think he made about 2 cup starts this year, which of course he finished 9th at Kansas, and everybody thought, wow, this kid is for real. So for Richard Childress Racing, I'm going to give him a D. Now, they have been good when it comes to super speedway racing, but everywhere else, they just need a lot of work to improve on.
Okay. Well, I was not as generous as you. And when you speak of someone being generous with a D, in this case, it's real generous. 0 wins, 0 playoff drivers, the total mishandling of the Daniel Hemrick situation. They bring this kid in to drive that number 8 car. And again, this goes back to that whole reshuffling of the deck and, oh, well, you didn't win this year. You got to move along. You don't build Rome in a day. You don't build a championship race team or championship race driver in a day. I give RCR an F, and I'm sticking to it. I think there's a lot of things that team can do to better themselves going forward. And with Tyler Reddick coming in and driving that 8 car, I'm curious to see if Reddick has the same misfortune as Daniel Hemrick in the coming season, if they're going to be quick to give him the old heave-ho.
Yeah.
All right, next on the list, I have Roush Fenway Racing. Well, they put a driver in the playoffs with Ryan Newman, and they did little else for the rest of the season. I don't know how many times we actually spoke about Roush drivers this year on the show, unless it was a really bad crash or look, Ryan Newman snuck in. Roush a D+, and the plus only comes from that one playoff driver, Ryan Newman.
Yeah, Roush Fenway Racing for me, I'm gonna give him a D. I would probably say that, and again, they have been good on the super speedways with Stenhouse, and then unfortunately, with Stenhouse doing the whole trade swap, meaning, okay, we'll give you Chris Buescher if you give us Ricky Stenhouse Jr. So, yeah, I would just give Roush Fenway a D. They did do pretty good with Ryan Newman this year. They did make the playoffs. Unfortunately, they didn't go too far. But yeah, again, like Richard Childress Racing, they need a lot of work to improve on next year.
Okay. I'm going to let you start this one. Second to the last one on the list, the Wood Brothers Race Team.
Okay, so the Wood Brothers, which you have Paul Menard, who only scored 4 top 10 finishes this year. I'm going to give him a D+. They have been good on the super speedways. Menard has been a consistent driver throughout the years. And I think with Matt DiBenedetto coming in next season, I think he's going to turn that team around. So if you compare DiBenedetto's stats to Menard's stats, DiBenedetto only scored about 3 top 5s and 7 top 10s. So I think if you look at it, I think he's going to turn this team around next year. And also, let's not forget, the Wood Brothers is also a satellite affiliate team with Team Penske. So basically, you're pretty much looking at a 4th Penske car.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's a question. I don't know what stats you have in front of you, since you're comparing the outgoing driver, Paul Menard, to the incoming driver, Matt DiBenedetto. Yep. Do you have in front of you the laps led for 2019 between Menard and Matt DiBenedetto? Because that's where, in my opinion, that's where the difference.
Yep. Yes, I do. All right. So Let's see. So DiBenedetto led about 152 laps this season, comparing to Menard, he led about 11.
Okay. I gave the Wood Brothers a D+ because it's another one of those rebuilding years. Paul Menard, I think, had an inkling this was going to be his last season before he actually announced his retirement. They did make an upgrade as we were coming to the close of the season by hiring Matt DiBenedetto. The 21 team was strong, but you got to get that car to the front, and you also need a driver that can get to the front. The fact that when you talk about Paul Menard and his lucky win in Indianapolis years ago, not the guy that makes you think, wow, hooray, Paul Menard. But everybody was on the DiBenedetto train this year, from Daytona all the way down to the very last laps at Homestead and Miami Speedway. Insofar as the Wood Brothers season, the D+ comes from a lot of the things you said. They're a quality team. They're a satellite of Penske. They have potential to do so much better next season. As long as they keep it to a single car operation for now and don't step outside the bounds, I think you're going to see the Wood Brothers make a huge jump in these grades come next December.
Yeah.
All right, and last but not least, we go to Chip Ganassi Racing, and, not their best season. And we've talked about the ups and the downs, mostly downs, of our dear and wonderful, one of our favorites, Kyle Larson. They pull off 2 wins. They put 2 of their drivers into the playoffs, Kurt Busch and Kyle Larson. But when you think of Ganassi, you think of speed. You think of just, they come out of they may not be the most overly funded team. They may not be the sleekest team. They may not have the most, marketable drivers, but they always have fight in their heart. It just seemed like Ganassi didn't have fight this year, but you got to give him credit on the wins and placing 2 drivers into the playoffs. I'm giving Chip Ganassi Racing a C-.
I'm gonna give Ganassi a C+. I mean, they do have speed. They did win 2 races this year. Of course, Larson won at Dover during the playoff race, which that brought him into the next round. And then, of course, goes up to the round of 8, which almost gets him into the championship 4, comes up short. But, I'm going to give him a C- this year. They had good performances. They had good speed. Unfortunate fact, with Larson, didn't have the best start during the regular season. I'd say probably the first 12 races this year, but I do expect him to get a lot better next season.
All right. Well, as we come to the end of our report cards, Corey, do you have anything to pimp, plug, or otherwise push upon the people?
All right. So keep following us on the CNJ Speedway Review. Make sure you guys go on Facebook, follow us, like us, and you'll get notifications on Facebook, wherever. Instagram, we are at CJ Speedway, and then Twitter, we are at CJ_Speedway. And then also don't forget to follow us on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit the bell for notifications for when we go live, when we upload our videos and whatnot. So leading off on this, so I also want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. Chris and Eddie, I want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas, and then also my friend Zach, I also want to wish him a Happy Hanukkah, which of course Hanukkah starts on Sunday. So Zach, Happy Hanukkah to you. And then also for anybody who celebrates Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, I wish you guys a very happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, and not to mention a very Merry New Year, which we are getting to 2020. So guys, I'm so looking forward to this. I'm actually looking forward to February. I'm looking forward to Daytona to start. And it's funny because, once we get to January, it's only going to be about a month until Daytona. So I'm really looking forward to next season. I'm just looking forward to the racing in general. I'm really looking forward to this schedule. And, not only the fact that, with the playoffs, I think it's going to be fun, but I think it's going to be very exciting, and to say the least. So, and not only that, tomorrow night I'm going to be at the Bruins game with Zach. So it should be a lot of fun and exciting. And then also, guys, don't forget, next Saturday I am going to be down at R1 Indoor Karting in Lincoln, Rhode Island for the end of the year showdown. So I really want to get a last event in for 2019. And then other than that, I'll probably get some more events, by the start of late March, early April 2020, once all this cold weather and snow is gone and everything else in between. And one little last reminder. So the 6th annual Memorial Day Go-Karting Extravaganza is going to be on a Saturday, May 23rd. So mark that down on your calendar. So May 23rd will be the 6th annual Memorial Day Extravaganza. So I'm really looking forward to this event. I always look forward to this every year. So it's going to be exciting. I cannot wait. And, I'm just really looking forward to running this race. It's kind of like the Super Bowl of go-karting almost. So it's, I'm really, I always love running it every year. It's a lot of fun. So can't wait.
All right. Well, as Corey already said, Corey, for you and your family, and to Eddie and his family as well, Merry Christmas. To Zach out there, main man, Chaim, a little something for you, a little bit of the bubbly. And to all of you guys out there, have a great and safe holiday. One more time, production note, we will not be back until January 8th. So we are taking the holidays off. That doesn't mean that Corey won't be texting me incessantly with every news tidbit or other annoyance that he does. But you know what? It keeps me in the loop, and I like that. Yep. I will not be at the Bruins game, but on December 30th, my daughter and I will be in Hartford, Connecticut for Monday Night Raw, her first ever professional wrestling live event. She's been bugging me for years, and we finally got the opportunity. So we're going to try to enjoy that. Whether or not the camera picks us up, nobody knows, but we're going to have a great time. One other thing I want to mention to you guys, if you like the show and you know somebody who would like the show, please share it. The only way we're going to get bigger, we love having you guys. We appreciate all your support, but tell a friend. That's what we want for Christmas. That's Indeed. What we want for the holidays. Tell a friend. Move the show forward. Let's move that needle. I'm trying to make 2020 the year of the Focus Digital Network. Going to move the needle on Loki and Jabroni Show. We're going to move the needle on C&J Speedway Review. But that takes you guys. Maybe we'll have, like we had last night on the Loki and Jabroni Show, maybe we'll have a giveaway this year. You never know. Whatever moves the needle, man, let's do it. So to you and your families, again, a very Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, Festivus for the rest of us, Hanukkah. Let the airing of grievances begin as we dance around the Festivus pole. And remember, guys, among everything else, I can tell you, have fun at your holiday parties, have fun with your families. But if you feel like you're in no shape to drive, you're probably in no shape to drive. Let's come out of 2019 safe. I want to see all of you on the other side in 2020.
That is true. Yeah, guys, just make sure you drink responsibly too. And yeah, like Chris said, we just want to see everybody in 2020.
Exactly. So, for the final time in 2019, my name is Chris Burns, and I'm going to throw it over for the most anticipated words in C&J Speedway Review history. My man, Corey Huffnagel.
See you next year, guys. Good night.